Good evening, everyone. Welcome. It's Friday night, 9 p.m. And we are back here on a series on
How to ace your career.
So, guys and girls, all of you who've been joining me live time and again, thank you very much for coming and sparing your time.
Absolutely.
And before we go ahead with tonight's episode, let me introduce myself. I'm Nutan. I'm a career and a life coach. I coach mid-age people, professionals who have an experience of 12 to 15 years plus, people who've really seen success in their life, but today feel they're stuck somewhere in their career. Sometimes in life, you don't experience the pace of growth that you were experiencing earlier in your career. And that's the time when people come to me. They also come to me if they feel they're not happy with what they're doing and they want to shift their career. So career transition is other thing that I help my clients with. And of course, the most important thing, that you've been working very hard, but you feel you've not got enough rewards and recognition from your organization, and you need literally a great breakthrough in your career, which takes you a huge leap from where you are to where you want to reach. That's one amazing aspect of coaching people in that segment. And wonderfully and beautifully, we also connect to their lives and get to know so much from my clients. At the same time, here is...
Hey, I'm Dheeraj and I'm a life coach, I'm a career coach and a business coach. And both of us together, we create this company, ND Life Coaching.
So guys, we are here again with this episode on how to ace your career. There's one beautiful thing that we celebrated last year, that we completed one full year of our LinkedIn live sessions, which was seeming like a big commitment, but we could make it happen. And that also shows that when you decide, you make up your mind, you can achieve anything. Nothing comes your way.
Absolutely.
So, continuing this series, we have, like you all know who have been observing us, we've introduced one more beautiful twist to this entire series is we keep inviting mentors.
Yes.
Why they are mentors? Because they have lived the path which you are seeking. They've already walked on that path and achieved success.
Yes.
And that is why I invite them to share what does it take to really reach at those
Absolutely. So these are the people who have already reached there. And we truly believe that, proximity is power. So, where people have reached, if we can learn from them, so what they could do in a decade, we can do it few years. Because these people have already reached there. So why not learn from them? And that is why we've been approaching, and we're so grateful to all these people. They are so, what word? I'm not getting the word. They're so so open to share
and warm,
and they're so open to share. They're not hiding anything. I think they're so generous. That's my right word, to come out and share their views, because they also believe that this can help people. And that's why we have another mentor today, and of course she'll talk more about it, but please make the best out of this, because these are the people where on its own it's difficult to reach out to, and it's their compassion and their greatness. They've come here and they share everything. Yep.
So here we go. We'll first listen to her as usual.
Yes.
And then we will discuss on the learnings from this amazing interview. So it's all yours from here, and we'll come back towards the end.
Nutan, it's great to be a part of this initiative that you're running. Thank you for inviting me. I am, I belong from a small village called Kodi Bengre. It's in the coastal part of Karnataka, part of Udupi. My parents my father was a teacher. He was a central school teacher. My mother, the most enterprising woman I've ever seen in my life. She is a homemaker. My grandparents were landowners. They had coconut farms, and they were hoteliers. My roots are very strongly grounded in values of hard work, not taking indulgences for granted, dignity of labor, respecting one's time, and all of those values. So, and my father was, the first graduate of his village. So there was a lot of importance for education, continuous process of learning. One never thought that, studying this much was enough. I think learning is a continuous process, lifelong process, and there is no end to how much you can gather. We are all work in progress. That was a value that was embedded repeatedly, both my parents and grandparents. So that's where I come from. Those are my roots.
Okay. So Usha, which is, I mean, what your education after 10th, what did you choose and how did you make those choices? Was it peers influencing? Was it the trend which is going on? Because that's how we land up into a career. So what was your educational background? What did you start with?
Sure. So my father was a teacher. I loved the teaching profession, and I had a lot of fantastic set of teachers. So like any child, the first fascination was, with the teachers. And when I finished 10th standard, when we were inching towards CET, and when we were inching towards the 12th standard, where you actually make those decisions. Actually, it was the late 1990s. So the mood in the country was about IT sector. You heard about Infosys, TCS, Narayan Murthy,
Absolutely.
everywhere in the air, and one just wanted to be part of that entire movement and see how do we contribute as well, how do we pitch in as well. I even had some neighbors who had joined Infosys at that time, and they would talk about all the work that we were doing. And that time, the year 2000, there were a lot of projects at that time, where there was a lot of software reprogramming or whatever was happening, because we were touching the 2000 mark. In one of the interviews, Narayan Murthy had said it was just sheer poor programming to not account for that, that the years would change, and not to account for that, and he thought the Y2K was just, poor imagination of software programmers. And we had a lot of projects around that. We would see our neighbors talking about it. So there was more than, I'd say, pressure. There was a lot of enthusiasm to be a part of that movement, and to see how we can contribute as well, and to see the power of all of the things that one could do digitally. So I think it was a very charged atmosphere at that time. We heard it in the news. Grandparents were talking about it.
Wow.
My grandfather would talk about Narayan Murthy and Sudhamurthy all the time. So for me, it was almost like a natural choice to, the focus was, like quite straight. Nothing else really, came in. It was the most important thing that was getting discussed at that time, and we wanted to be a part of that journey. So, that's how I feel.
Great. So how did it work for you with all this environment? You took up the first job. How did it really go to?
So it's funny. I was in my third year of engineering. Campus selection happens, and all the IT firms were there: TCS, Wipro, Infosys, and I had gotten selected by both TCS as well as Infosys. I was feeling like dream is coming true, and and I was on a very high. And this happens in the third year of engineering, so. I was selected. I had, sort of clarity on what is going to happen next. And fourth year, also went like a breeze for us. We're all happy zone. And then, the 9/11 happened, and our joining dates were indefinitely postponed. And I couldn't even understand, how a 9/11 attack could really impact us, and what was all of this about. So 2001 was the year I graduated, and suddenly what was very clear and what was looking like very rosy, it had like a very abrupt kind of a stop, and I actually felt quite angry, and I thought I'm just going to take up any job and start working. So I went to the computer the only skill that I had at that time was computer programming. my engineering was in computer science. So I knew C, C++, I could teach it in my sleep. So I went to an institute that was teaching programming, and it is the Manipal Institute of Computer Education. It's called MIND. I went there, I spoke, to the head of that center, and I said, I know this language, can I do anything here? She said yes, and I started teaching, and I did that for about 3 months. I was also in touch with my professors, and one of my professors, Professor BSN, we used to call him. He was extremely gracious. He spoke about an opening in distance education wing of MAHE. MAHE is Manipal Academy of Higher Education. So they were looking for, and it's very amusing now when I look back, but they were looking for someone to do remote teaching. So what we used, during the COVID times, this was probably something MAHE had preempted 20 years back. And they had students as a part of the Sikkim Manipal University. They had students like far northeast and all over India, in fact, and they wanted to start the remote teaching, program. So I was sitting in Manipal in the studio, delivering the program, and then we used to have like students all across. And this was inaugurated in the year, late 2001, early 2002. And I did not imagine it was such a big deal, but for that time, it was really heartbreaking.
Yes.
We had the Chief Minister of Karnataka, then S.M. Krishna. He came over to inaugurate the program. I felt this was really, sort of a divine intervention. Now, when I look back, it feels like that. At that time, my mind was somewhere else, and I was just doing whatever was being offered to me.
Right.
So so as a part of this new role at Distance Education Wing, we would write, the program, the content for computer teaching. We would write exam papers, we would correct exam papers and all of that. So I did that for about 6 months. And then, we got the letters from Infosys telling they are going to hold their commitment and they're going to take us all back in. And so in May, so about 9 months, I did all of these odd jobs. So I've never been like, I say out of work ever since I, finished college. So I've been doing something or the other, and then I was extremely thrilled to join back Infosys again. Everything that one imagined and dreamed of, it was all of that. Beautiful people, beautiful campus, beautiful values, culture, all of that got introduced, to us. We were just, 21, 22 at that time, and very starry-eyed, and whatever we were seeing, we were just soaking it in. So that was, how I got started with on my professional journey.
So there's something really very unique I've found. I've spoken to a few people who have worked with Infosys, and I think everyone talks about this. The environment is beautiful, the leadership is amazing. There is so much buzz happening there in terms of learning also. Of course, thanks to the library, which is so huge. But otherwise, people connecting to the values, making it really big, looking at bigger projects. I think the culture there is really amazing. So what has it been like in these 20 years? Because from what I've been hearing from you, you're a very passionate person about what you do. How has this journey been throughout? What are the learnings? What has really made you grow to join one of the big Bs, what we call in our country? How has this journey been in 20 years?
Yeah, so it's been a fascinating dream ride, I'd say. When I was doing my work with Infosys, I got to write series of software programs for multiple institutes in the banks, in insurance fields, and so on. So it was good because we were understanding what were the problems that the financial institutes or the insurance companies at that time were facing, and how our software was helping them to kind of solve the issues that they were facing. In this journey, while I was, writing software, I had this beautiful opportunity to write something called detection scenarios using Actimize, and that was for another, bank in their investment advisory space. And this program was about how do you identify people who are logged in the system as low risk customers, but their investment is showing very high risk behavior.
Okay.
And then that got really glued. Got me glued into this entire area of financial crime surveillance. And then this team also did a lot of work around finding, let's say, insider trading patterns and all of that.
Okay.
So then I decided this is where I want to specialize. And then I took whatever changes. This was all in Infosys. Then whatever changes I took in my career, they were all dependent on how do I increase my breadth and depth of this domain. I worked in PwC. There I had a lot of opportunity to understand various assurance activities that happen in the AML, anti-money laundering, transaction monitoring systems. After some time, I joined Standard Chartered Bank. I was, leading their transaction monitoring units, and the bank was going through, the last 2 years of monitorship at that time, and we had some amazing transformational activities on technology and process that was happening, and I got to be a part of it. Now I'm a part of KPMG, and here again, we do a lot of work around KYC, CDD, managing the operations floor on that, doing remediation and data refresh exercises. And my latest role that I'm playing here is in the forensic practice. All my decisions to pick up any project have been how do I become more of value in this area? How do I increase my expanse of my knowledge and my relevance in this field?
Wow. So that's again a common thread between the two of us. You've been in the back end taking care of these. I was in the front end. I was into financial investment. I ran a portfolio management company for some time, and getting information from the client, because one of the products that you would sell was insurance, right? And people generally don't want to share their challenges. And we have to go and educate that person that you don't share your challenge. You keep them behind the scenes, but you will not understand that when the money is going to be required, that time this is going to be pointed out. And that is where you're going to get stuck. Then AML guidelines, when they came in, and cash became a challenge to invest to. I think we were forefronting the challenges of what was happening, and you were doing the backing work. Fantastic. So while this is a passion, you found your niche, you're really enjoying your work, there is other side to life also, which is the personal sense, getting married, having children. How do you really manage this work-life balance?
Yeah, so I just followed what my parents were telling me, I guess. I got married, while I was at Infosys, and Infosys had great policy for higher education as well as for for new mothers. So I had my child while I was at Infosys. So I also did my MBA. I was recommended by Infosys for a program called PGSEM. It's now called PGPEM, and this was in collaboration with IAB. So 3 years of part-time MBA. I got to do, and every visit to the institute was like a visit to the temple. Wow. Amazing professors, and beautiful setup, beautiful atmosphere for one to learn and excel. During my time as while doing these courses, when I got married, and my husband was extremely supportive. We stayed close to the college, and on some of the lectures he would attend with me as well when the professors gave permission. And some of my professors knew both of us.
Wow.
And yeah, by the time I graduated, I decided to expand the family. We had my son then, and after that is when I did most of my career changes. So when someone says that after a child, things get little difficult, difficult on professional side, and it's difficult to make a lot of changes. I think if you have like a proper support system, like a good team behind you, I have done all my changes after I've had my son.
Wow.
And yeah, balancing is not like a very difficult thing. It's not easy, but it requires some planning. It requires a lot of understanding of best practices from all people around us. And I think creating your circle of support system and not being too cruel to our own selves, to be able to say it's all right, today this is important, I'll take care of this, and tomorrow, I will be able to take care of the most important thing on that day. So I think one day at a time, and I think it's not that difficult, but it's not easy either, but it's possible to have that balance between this and that.
Yes. And I think what you really rightly mentioned, if you have an ecosystem which is supporting you, where your husband is really stood by you, you have your parents supporting you, I think it does become doable. But at the same time, it's still not easy. Because, we have three generations living together. Everyone would have their opinion, their ideas coming from different places. So you start growing as a person in that environment. And I think same thing happens in the professional field, that as you grow, first it's about your contribution individually, and then it's about taking care of people. So what is that journey from being an individual contributor to a leader, and what it takes to really become a good leader?
So I'd say, leadership is about understanding what your team is, what the mix of the team is, and then finding your style and then saying, for this group of people, this is how I want to lead, and this is how we'll decide. The goals anyway are quite defined, and we'll get to the goals, but the journey to get there is, what we have in our control. And that journey is something that you can determine through your style. So I've not really had like one single style of leadership. It depends, on the group of people that I have with me, my team. If it is a very experienced and highly, they hold high expertise in the subject matter, then most of the time I'm listening, because I really don't have to do anything too out of the box. They already have the solution. It is just about steering them a little bit here and there. And if it is a team of lot of freshers and lot of new people who are just in the beginning stages of their career, then they require direction. They look up to us for more guidance. So at that time, we provide that. So it really, I am, what do you say, very malleable in my style, and I'm totally driven by what my team constitutes of.
Right. So one beautiful trait that you pointed out is listening as a leader. That's really a very important quality. What could you mention? A few more traits or qualities in a person to become an effective leader?
Yeah. So I think leadership is displayed really by how our responsiveness is to the situation. Sometimes you have to take tough calls, and this is one thing that I picked up from the head of transaction monitoring in while I was working in Standard Chartered Bank, and he said sometimes it's okay to be wrong, but you have to be decisive. Right or wrong, you can later you will have opportunities to to mend ways to correct, but indecisiveness, one doesn't have like an option to do that. So I think one of the Yeah, and his name was Balaji. He was a fantastic leader that I worked with. He said, right or wrong, we can decide, and there's really nothing very right or very wrong.
Absolutely correct.
Yeah, but what is important is taking decisions at the right time, not leaving people in a flux, and taking care of your people basically, and making sure they have uh, they feel safe, when they're working with us, right? So I'd say empathy, listening, all of these come under one bucket. The second is not to have like a rigid style, but to be malleable and to make sure you are adapting to the group of people that we are working with. Third, I would say, is being decisive. In your at every point that you need to take the decision, and also the fourth I would say is again something I picked up from my professor. Um, he said his name was Professor DVR, and he would say that defining moments are those in our life where you choose between two rights.
That's the most difficult one. Yes.
Yeah. Choosing between right and wrong is very easy.
Very easy.
Should you drink or should you, read some useful stuff? Very easy choice.
Correct.
But when you have to choose between two right things, equally right things, they are the ones that define you. And he would say, look back at all the times that where you have chosen between two right options, they will tell you who you are or how you are evolving. So I think those reflections are very important as leaders, because when we look back and see what were those important turning points, how did we, take decision, it reveals something about us to ourselves. And I think that I would say the fourth aspect would be to reflect upon our own styles, our own, mechanisms to see how are we evolving, just so that we are in touch with ourselves.
Great. So beautiful. So if I just sum it up, you're talking about one being a good listener. That's how empathy comes in. Second is having great decision-making skills, because that's really crucial in the most toughest moments. Third, you're talking about is adaptability, because that's I think the key today with so many changes happening around us. How do we really adapt to the situation? Making some tough calls is really crucial. And if I'm not adaptable as a leader and I can't take those crucial calls, how will I be able to lead the team? And the biggest thing, making a decision between two rights. That brings me to the next question about, we've really in the last 6 months seen so many layoffs happening, people being laid off the jobs. If you look at it from the organization point of view, probably it's necessary. Probably it is not. We only sitting inside can know the reality. Outside it is just about making a judgment, right? And the people who get laid off, what should they really, when they are, this is happening to them, how do they look at the situation and how can they come out of it if they have suffered from this particular decision of the organization?
Yeah, those are really tough times, and nothing one says can really, assuage that feeling. But I would say that, think positive, because not because, um, it's someone is telling you to do that and it's good for your body, not that. Think positive, because that's the most effective alternate. If you go into like a self-pity mode, what happens is you go there, then it takes you longer to rebound, then you again come back to an option that possibly leads you out of it, right? So think positive, look at the half full side of the glass, half filled side of the glass. Just because it's efficient, it will take you to your goal faster, right? So I'd say positive attitude, best alternate. In when you are when you are working, when you are in a position of adding any value, I would say keep a mindset of how do you make yourself relevant to constantly evolving situations. And I think that is done by being a part of the solution of the most significant problem that's getting solved around you. You could be in any domain. You could be in banking, you could be in advertisement, you could be in retail sector, any sector, and there would be the most important problem that's getting people's attention and they are solving for it, right? Right. Try to be a part of that solution. That would require you possibly to gain additional technical skills. So go ahead and do that. It might require you to enhance your skills on some certification, through some certifications and so on. So go ahead and do that. Only thing is, if you are useful, if you are relevant, if one is required to be a part of the team to solve that problem, I think anybody will like to have you in your team, right? So make yourself useful. I think it's very beautifully put in one of the cartoon series. My son used to watch this Thomas the Steam Engine, right? And there Thomas is not really one of the most powerful engines. He's not even like the biggest engine. He's a very, very small, tiny engine. And but what he says is, I want to be the most useful engine here. Wow. And when you try to be the most useful, you try to acquire skills, you try to acquire attitudes, competencies that allow you to be relevant, to the context that we are. So I'd say, don't take anything, for granted. Look at, if you're feeling a little comfortable, look at, are you a part of the most important problem getting solved? Absolutely. In your time. Correct. If not, look at how you can be a part of it. Very true. Wonderful. And that brings me to the last question. That is about hiring people. I'm sure in these 20 years you have played different roles, directly, indirectly, influencing these decisions. What is that you look into a person when you're hiring them, other than the functional expertise, of course? That's going to be the first thing when you're looking into a technical role. But what are the other skills that you see, or soft skills, traits in a person that he would be the right fit for the organization? Sure. So, like you said, domain competencies, technical skills, functional competencies, they are anyway, required, and they are a given. But apart from that, some of the values that I look for, it's actually beautifully encapsulated by my son's school. So I've just borrowed the concept from my son's school. They teach their kids something called RISE, RISE, R for respect, I for integrity, S for spirit, how you can maintain positivity and how you can be the right, respond with the right spirit in each instance. And E is excellence. How do you, pursue excellence, because there is no endpoint to it. So I think I look for these values, and we try to understand through various incidents or experiences the candidates have been, how do they demonstrate these values? Because once they give us examples, we understand how their communication skills are, how they have responded to those situations, and how they are able to articulate it, and convince us as well that how these values were demonstrated, because these are really what one needs on the professional side. If you're respectful to the surrounding, the colleagues, the system that we are in, if we behave with integrity, because if you don't know something, that's okay, someone will teach you, but integrity is there is no compromise on that. I agree. Yeah. Then, like I said, spirit, and then excellence, any opportunity where one showed how they were trying to excel in whatever roles they were given, because I really believe slow progress at least is better than no progress. So how that was exhibited, these are some of the things that I tried to see.
Wow.
So guys, there was so much of learning, right?
Absolutely.
Such beautiful insights from her. Would you like to start?
Yeah, I would like to start with, when she said that life is a journey of learning. You should never stop learning. You should be open to learning continuously. I think that's one thing which I really love. Second, she also said that, like how can you add more value? because when you add more value, that's how you become more valuable, and when you're valuable, you're priceless. Okay, so that's the second thing which I like. Third, she said while hiring people, what she spoke about the attitude, that rice thing. I really like that. You need to respect, you need to have integrity, you need to have that excellence in you, that urge to excel. I think these are the beautiful things that I'm going to take away, and I'm sure there's a lot you have taken away.
So, even for me, some amazing learnings in addition to what Dheeraj just shared was, when she started her career till here, opportunities came in, she kept giving her best.
Yep.
So when she didn't get the job, she didn't sit at home, feel depressed. She took up the next opportunity. And that has helped her today in 20 years down the line when the virtual world has started. So I think life, what is coming to us, if we respond to our best abilities, we'll always keep having more better and greater paths to come in. Then one beautiful thing that she mentioned, people were looking to work for Narayan Murthy. So I think having role models in your life are so damn important. As a young growing up kid, if you can look up to someone and say that this is who I want to be or this is where I want to work, what a great place that you created for yourself as an industry leader. So kudos to, of course, Narayan Murthy and his wife, because that is what she was saying was happening across Bangalore, that people are talking about wanting to be with them and work with them.
Absolutely.
That's the stage that they have reached, and they have maintained it throughout these years. The other beautiful thing that she told was how she moved from one place to the other. But it's important as a leader to respond to the team. Choose your way or choose your style. So which means she doesn't have a fixed leadership style. It all depends on the situation, whether she has to lead from the front or be at the back end and just let the team lead ahead.
Very true.
That kind of capacity is really, really amazing, which is what shows her depth as a person. How to add value and stay relevant. I think that was a very crucial thing. How can you stay relevant? Because what was relevant yesterday may not be relevant today. And if you're staying there, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you may not be important for the organization.
Very true.
So please share your insights on what did you take from this amazing interview, and look forward to connecting with you on the next Friday at 9 p.m. Till then, have a wonderful weekend and really enjoy Saturday and Sunday. See you again on next Friday. Please share your thank you note. Please convey a lot of thanks to this wonderful woman who shared so much with us.
Absolutely, please do that.
Yes.
That's how we would value and say that thank you by really going out there. So,
and to end with, one day at a time is what she said. So one day at a time is one moment at a time. Just spare a few more minutes, drop in your learning so that she knows that she could add value
to your life. Thank you so